Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our last career development webinar for 2021, which is co-sponsored by TC Next, our Career Services Department, and Alumni Relations. My name is Elisa Ewan, and I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations at TC. Before we begin today's webinar, I would like to quickly share some of my favorite ways you can stay engaged with TC. 1, hire TC alumni and students. 2, refer prospective students back to the college. 3, show your pride by including Teachers College in all of your professional credentials. 4, share your talents and expertise by volunteering to speak at TC events or by joining one of our Alumni Association committees. And 5, when the time is right for you, support TC financially by donating to the TC Fund. By sharing their time and expertise, our incredible alumni presenters make this webinar series possible. So it is my honor to introduce today's event speaker, Tai Tsao, who will be presenting Leading with Momentum, Design Meetings that Actually Achieve Results. Tai Tsao is driven to help individuals, teams, and organizations unlock their potential, transform the way they work, and make a greater impact. She founded Lead Now Consulting, a collaboration company on a mission to help individuals and teams thrive at work. Tai is a co-author of Momentum, Creating Effective, Engaging, and Enjoyable Meetings, which was an Amazon bestseller in 2017. Prior to founding Lead Now, Tai worked as an organizational development consultant with a diverse array of organizations. She enjoys helping teams across different industries reflect how they can work with each other and learn about how to improve their collaborations and build a healthier workplace. Tai will be taking questions from the audience during the latter part of our event, so feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A pane below. We will be utilizing Slido in today's workshop, so please have your phone or device ready. If you have any technical or audio issues, please feel free to use the chat and let us know how we can help. And without further ado, please help me welcome Tai Tsao.
Hi, thank you so much, Elisa, for the invitation. I'm thrilled to be here. Happy December, everyone. So I'm looking in the chat. If you want to introduce yourself, feel free to drop some lines and connect with alumni all over the world. I'm here in Taipei right now, so it's 1 a.m. for me, really early, but I'm happy that whether you're in the East Coast, West Coast, or anywhere in the world, thank you for taking the time to be here. So this will be an interactive session, so feel free to ask questions and then comment in the chat. And then thank you, Elisa, for the kind introduction. So I fell in love with group process at TC and hope to support leaders and teams around the world to collaborate more effectively. So my colleague, Mamie Camphor-Stewart, and I wrote a lot of articles on effective meetings and team practices. So we published a book on this topic. We truly believe that if you like to build a strong team, healthy culture, you can always start by changing your meetings. So in today's like 40 minutes, 15 minutes we're going to spend together, I'll share some of the content from our book with a focus on virtual meetings, which we know they're here to stay. So, and we will share some of the things we learned during COVID time and some hands-on practices you can use in your next meeting. So my goal today is that when you close the Zoom webinar today, you will leave with one action that you like to take in your next meeting in the next few days. So I hope that will be a great start to kick off December. So today's agenda we'll talk a little bit about the challenge about virtual meetings, and we will explore 3 ingredients for successful virtual meetings. And then we will do a quick Q&A at the end. So you can see I put norms on the site. So it's really, we encourage people to think about how we want people to, what kind of behavior we want people to show in meetings. So one please ask questions. If I go too fast, ask me to slow down a little bit, give more examples. I want to make sure that the concepts are clear. And two, I encourage everyone to engage and learn from each other. So I will ask some questions and feel free to share your experience, your expertise in the chat or in the device we're going to use later. So first, I would love to get to know you. Now we have 35 people on the call right now. I would love to get to know you a little bit more. So if you have your phone ready, you can scan this QR code or just type in your computer slido.com, and the event code is leadnow 1201. So I have a couple of questions for you for us to warm up and to get to know you and your experience on meetings. So the first question is, how many work meetings in total did you have over the past 2 weeks? So you can scan the QR code or type in the URL slido.com. Oh, we can see some results coming in. Okay, we have a lot of people have 11 to 20 meetings. This number should be fewer than usual since it was Thanksgiving last week. Yeah, you can see from we have 14 people participate in this poll. So 11 to 12 meetings, or majority of people have this number of meetings. Cool. So a lot of times when I ask this question in organizations, we have a category of like 51 and more. So Elisa and I was talking about, like, that's way too many meetings in 2 weeks. But some people still pick that option. So that's challenging. And we know, like, when we are having, when we are working remotely, the number of meetings double. So thank you for participating in the first question. We have a couple more. So the second one is, what types of meetings did you have over the past 2 weeks? Either is team staff meeting, project meeting, one-on-one, talking about the feedback or performance, or you have client-facing meetings or other type of meetings that is not listed here. Oh, wonderful. So today we will focus more on internal team meetings, like staff meeting or kind of like project type of meetings, but some of the practice are shared across different meeting types. So thank you for sharing. To the next. So what percentage of meetings you attended in the past 2 weeks were productive? So this is just a snapshot of what you think of those meetings. There's no right or wrong answers. Oh, wow. So we have people have like 60 to 80% of the meeting are pretty productive. That's great. That's relatively great. So feel free to share your thoughts, how you make your meetings productive in the chat. That'll be awesome. Like, what tools or practices do you use? Feel free to share them. Wow, so I saw a lot of people have like really relatively great meetings. So here, I know at TC, we always want to get better. So thank you all for like spending the time here. So I am curious, are you primarily a meeting leader or participant? So do you spend more time preparing for the meeting as a meeting facilitator or meeting leader, or do you usually go to other people's meeting? So we have like half and half. Let's wait for a couple of more response. Oh, half and half. Awesome. So this will help me to know more about the composition of the group, and then I can share the tips based on your roles. Wonderful. So final warm-up question. What do you hope to get out of this webinar? So I saw a lot of people have like 60 to 80 or 80% to 100% of their meetings are pretty productive. So I'm curious, like, what do you hope to get out of this webinar? You can type a keyword, a short sentence, or anything you like to share some strategies and best practices. We'll talk about some hands-on practices. How do we make meetings more fun? Nice. Oh, meeting leading skills, some new ideas, some new tools, quick tips. Great. we'll talk about a lot of practical skills here as well. Engagement ideas, we might talk about some of them. We'll see. And I saw Medora already share some practices they use. It's an agenda in advance whenever it's possible. So agenda is, we all know agenda is a pretty crucial for meeting effectiveness to communicate what you want to get out of the meeting with your meeting participants. So awesome. Speak more professionally and confidently, meet the needs and interests, encourage participant engagement, motivating our leaders to be innovative on their meeting approach. Cool. So thank you for sharing your expectations. We'll see, let's explore this topic together. So one thing I'm curious, like what's difficult about virtual meetings compared to in-person ones? Think about your experience as we step into hybrid work. Some of you might still work from home. Some of you are already returned to the office. So think about like, what's the difference between virtual meetings comparing to in-person ones? So virtual meetings, a lot of us already been through tons of virtual meetings in the past 2 years. And we know that virtual meetings are the way that significantly help us collaborate with our team when we're apart. So people make movies or creations and inspiring ideas throughout this process. However, we are also really familiar with the challenges virtual meetings could bring, whether it's overcoming technical issues, combating tons of distractions. Like we're in a webinar right now, so there are a lot of like screens or windows on your desktop, a lot of distractions on your phones. How can we focus on the conversation with the people in front of us? So that will be really challenging. And it's harder for the meeting leader to read the room, and also more challenging for the participant to contribute. So you might also feel a little distant from your colleagues when you're not in the same location. And also like virtual teams really rely on meetings to achieve their goals, such as building relationship and staying connected. Meetings are used to connect with colleagues on a human level. And I used to work at a software startup, and we have colleagues all over the world. And we have like a dedicated meeting time to connect with each other, but we also use tons of chat tools and different ways to stay connected. But like when you can see another person face to face in their familiar like environment, even though I've never met them like until I worked with them for a year. So that's really the normal thing for us right now. So meetings are, for virtual teams, meetings are also used to share information, gather input, and make decisions. So when we're working in the same office, some of these can be done in the informal conversation in the hallway, but it's more challenging for virtual teams to do that. So I would like to share 3 keys to successful virtual meetings. 1, desired outcome. You always have a clear desired outcome. I'll talk more about what that is. And 2, use really explicit practices or norms. And 3 is using the right technology. I will start with the first one. If there's only one thing you take away from this webinar, this is it. So all meetings must have a clear desired outcome. So you might heard of like, we want meeting to have goals. We know the purpose of the meetings. So we call it desired outcome for a reason. But I would like to share with you, like we think about like 7 meeting whys in our book and research. And we think we want to encourage people to think about this before they plan any meeting, plan any agenda. So step 1 is just to clarify which 7 whys you want to have a meeting. So it's helpful to consider these reasons. So decide. So these meetings are to get everyone to make a decision. Pretty simple, right? Align. These meetings are to get everyone on the same page with really complex information or a lot of moving pieces. It's hard to convey in an email or like a one-way communication. So you need people from different departments to stay aligned. The third one is ideate. So these meetings are like, we are familiar with those meetings, or it's like brainstorming or like creative ideation type of meeting. And produce. These are like working sessions where the team is collaborating on actual work together. So they might be working on a deck for a client presentation. My husband is an engineer, so he's like making things with his colleague in real time, and they're checking a lot of different components and make sure that everyone is in sync. So they need to produce something at the end, produce a new solution, or like make sure the apps will run at the end of the session. And the fifth one is plan. These meetings are laying out future activities, aligning on new next steps, whether they're big or small. And the sixth one is connect. So this is often ignored, or we won't put that in the agenda, but that will be maybe our hidden agenda, or what we want to achieve. Like we want to build relationship. A lot of times, some of my clients, they were thinking about, oh, we have like monthly staff meeting, and we only talk about like status updates. And each department or each leader just talk about what they are doing and what they plan to do next. But it's just boring, and they're not making new things, and it feels draining. But like if once they think about, oh, our goal is to connect with each other because we don't work in the same office and it's hard for us to get together. So how about using our time more wisely to create some agenda items or activities to really connect with each other and get to know each other in a more personal or human level. So that's the initial 6 that we lay out in the book. And then after we talk about this topic with a lot of organizations, we added a new one called Learn. So these are the meetings for gaining knowledge or skills, or deepening our understandings or unearthing insights. So it could be a training session, it could be a interactive workshop. It might generate some outputs, or like after you have a project meeting, you have like a reflection or learning session. So that's the goal of that meeting. So some meetings will fall into more than one bucket, and that's okay. So if you're planning like a longer meeting, like a day of meeting or a bigger event, you can always think about like in smaller chunks, like what's the goal of this session and what do we want to achieve? Why are we having this session? So you can see that there's no present or inform or share in this list, because we believe that meetings shouldn't be a one-way communication. You may have all-in meetings that only a few people talking as participants, and those meetings are often frustrating and a waste of time, and sometimes we don't know why we're there. So in this case, you can consider other way to share and present information to your team. So that's 7 reasons to meet. So we think like effective meetings don't happen by accident, they happen by design. So knowing why you want to meet isn't enough to create an effective meeting. You need to use it as a compass. So if you start off a few degrees off, after an hour or so, you might be really off course. So getting it right up front is really critical. So we talked about the meeting whys, and then that's set the desired outcome from the whys. So we define desired outcome as the measurable results of the meeting that the meeting will achieve. So according to Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, we need to begin with the end in mind. So the begin with the end in mind will be desired outcome. You can write down specific results or outcomes you want the meeting to achieve, what decision will be made, how many ideas you want when you walk out of that meeting room or close that Zoom window, and what specifically do you want to learn. So this is a little bit different from an agenda. Agenda is what you will do during the meeting, the activities. But what we're looking for here is the outcome, what the meeting will accomplish. So why are we doing this? First, we want to set the intention. So when we set out the intention, what we know what we want to do and what we want to achieve, we're more likely to achieve it. And second, we want to show a new level of respect to our colleagues. What we are saying is, I respect you and your time, and I think you're an important contributor to our meeting to generate this outcome together. So when you don't set an outcome, you leave people wondering, why am I invited to this meeting? And in some cases, they'll feel important for being invited, but more often they feel frustrated when you're taking up their valuable time. So one way you can actually able to measure the success of the meeting is when you have a desired outcome. So you can compare against it at the end of the meeting. Do you really achieve what you set out to do? So the difference is, what I said earlier, the 7 ways is kind of like the purpose of the meeting. It's answering the questions why we're meeting. So to make decision or to ideate, to align on the next steps. But the desired outcome will be a noun. So it's answering the questions, what will this meeting achieve? Or if you want to fill in the blank, at the end of this meeting, we will have. So let me give you some example. So example of a desired outcome, it could be at the end of this meeting, we will have an alignment on a new brand strategy direction. So it's not that at the end of the meeting, we will have a discussion about the new meeting strategy, because in that way, you don't know whether you achieved the goal yet. You had that discussion, but does it really work? Or is that what you want to do at the end? So if we rephrase it in a different way, we want the meeting, at the end of this meeting, we will have a list of questions for the brand agency to help us further clarify the brand strategy. So that will be a different meeting from alignment on the new brand strategy direction. So that's something that you can make it specific and make sure that you can answer the question. At the end of the meetings, blank will be achieved. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. What's the maximum number of desired outcomes? Usually 1 or 2 will be fine, because if you have in 1 hour meeting and you have so many outcomes that you want to achieve, maybe it's a good time to prioritize it a little bit. So you know, like you're working toward the same results. Yeah, cool. Cool. So if you have any more questions on this topic, feel free to drop them in the chat. So I'll share example. For example, checking on progress. We might have some meetings just titled check-in, or people come to your desk or ping you on like Slack or other communication tools, like, do you have 5 minutes? Can we check in on something? So even with this like impromptu meeting, you can always set a goal or set the desired outcome for this meeting. For example, is this meeting to what we want to achieve at the end is the alignment on test status, or a revised timeline and execution plan, or a list of roadblocks, bottlenecks, or issues. So these, you can see like these 3 desired outcomes will have really, really different meetings. And you might design different agenda items around them to achieve this outcome at the end. So let me give you another example. For example, if you get a mission is to discuss ways to better support our partners. That will be something that let's call a meeting. Let's discuss ways to better support our partners. But what does that really mean? Does that mean we want to have a list of potential ideas? We want to start experimenting right away? Or we want an enhanced version of how we engage with them, like our engagement framework? Or we want to complete free persona profiles for partners? These are really different meanings. So you can see if we don't specify what outcomes we would like to achieve, people might have very different ideas or expectations on the meeting. And that will lead us to like wasting time, or we're running in circles because people are thinking about different things in this meeting. I know we've all been there. So once you set out a desired outcome, how do you use it? So as the meeting leader, I know half of you has been the meeting in the meeting leader role. You can use it to decide whether the meeting is really necessary. You can use it to plan your agenda, what you do, what you will do, and who to invite, and help other people prepare. That's really crucial because a lot of times we only got the title of the meeting and the time and the space, and we don't have any more information. So that's really helpful. If we know the desired outcome, we can help other people prepare. So as a side note, we often encourage people who are invited to the meeting to ask the question, what do we want to achieve at the end? What would the meeting, how do we describe the meeting will be successful? So when we walk out of that meeting room, what will happen? So that will help us to decide how we can better contribute in that meeting conversation. A lot of people might go into autopilot mode when it comes to accepting meeting invites. So ending up in meetings they shouldn't be in, or meetings that have no focus because no one is clarifying the desired outcome of the meeting. So these are really critical things that happen before the meeting even have started. And so how do we use desired outcome in the meeting? Once the meeting has started, you can get everyone in the room, in the virtual meeting room, and make sure that you can restate the goal and the desired outcome of this meeting, and refocus the conversation if people go off track. And sometimes like conversation got cut off, or off, like people talk on a tangent, and you can remind the group that if we want to achieve this outcome at the end, is it the best way to use our time on this topic, or should we table this topic for later, or in a different meeting, or we can use different ways to accomplish the results? So how desired outcome help you to refocus the group and help you measure success at the end of the meeting. So it's really black and white and clear whether you achieve that list of like new ideas, or agreement on something, or a decision on something. A lot of time when you got the hammer, everything looks like the nail. It's like when you got a problem to solve, you call a meeting. So one thing is counterintuitive that a meeting person is going to tell you is that not everything needs a meeting. So meeting just one form of communication, because now you know what you need to achieve, what you need to accomplish, what results you really want to get, and you can reconsider whether meeting is the right format, because really meeting is really costly, takes a lot of effort to schedule, to plan, to prepare, and follow up. And there are better ways to achieve that desired outcome. And in the end, just constantly reminding yourself, like, do we really need to hold this meeting? Are there different ways to do that? And when you take a step back, sometimes the answer will emerge. So alternatives to hold a meeting could be sending the email or memo, recording a video or audio message if it's a one-way communication, or as asynchronous chat. You can just share with your colleagues and tell them to get back to you in certain time, or you can collaborate on the shared document. So there are different ways to hold a meeting, and like the in-person or face-to-face real-time meeting might not be the best way to achieve your desired outcome. So in short, hold a meeting when you really need real-time engagement among the participants and when the topic is really complex and you want to generate that buy-in from the participants. And if engagement is optional or you're just seeking feedback on some content or just doing informational sharing, just use an alternative way to holding a meeting. So let me pause and ask you one question. So is there one meeting that you will possibly replace or shorten with the meeting alternative? And which alternative will you use? So think about this. You can flip through your calendar for the next few days. Is there one meeting that you can possibly replace or shorten with the meeting alternative? So I'll also put up the Slido, and you can also, it's the same link, so you can use it. We will use it 1 or 2 times later in this conversation. You can think about like, oh, if I have a meeting that I can use an alternative, what do I want to do? So I saw people thinking about maybe collaborate on the shared document, like commenting and tracking changes on Google Doc or Microsoft Word. It's now really, really easy to access, and it's easier for people to do version control as well. Send an email or a memo, use chat, or I can shorten the meeting. If I already achieved my desired outcome, I don't need to take up the whole time. So a lot of times our calendar apps give us the selection of like 30 minutes, an hour, just it's the default. And we can always challenge it if we can shorten the meeting. Wonderful. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. So like I said, the first one is the most important, but I would love to share more practices with you. The second one is be explicit about your virtual meeting practices. When we're all in the same place, we probably figure out where people are at by observing the group, and we might have some implicit ground rules that develops over time. However, when we're in the virtual meeting, things were ambiguous. Will only get more ambiguous. For example, how are we going to make a decision? Are we all on the same page? Sometimes it's like talking into the void, and it's really hard to play the guessing game when you're meeting virtually. So if we want to reduce the complexity, let's lay out the ground rules or the norms in the beginning, and we can all agree on the norms. So norms are really explicit agreement that the group makes to help them work and communicate more effectively during a meeting. You might be familiar with norms already. Sometimes they're called working agreements or ground rules, but they're all the same. The idea is to remove the assumptions and make things explicit. General norms you might heard of, maybe like make spaces for all voices, use yes and to build on other people's idea, or put your phones and devices away unless they support your participation, something like that. So you can state it in the beginning of the meeting and make them visible, showing on the share screen or on the share document. So when people are not really familiar with that, you kind of need some visual cues to remind people this is what we have all agreed on. And the third one is to call them out, not to call the people out, but like when you notice someone not following a norm, lift up the norm without calling out the person. Instead of saying, hi, Tai, I saw you're on your phone and we have a norm that we agreed to put our devices away. Can you put it down? You might say, I want to remind all of us that we agreed to put devices away so we can stay focused on this meeting. So talk about the why behind the norm will help people to behave the way that's desirable for this meeting. So some examples, if you want to scan this QR code, you will link to an article with we compile a list of meeting norms, not necessarily just virtual meeting norms. A lot of them can be used in all kinds of meetings. So you can see on this list, we have some technical norms. One thing I want to note is the bottom one, always turn on video. So initially, when we wrote the book back in 2017, we have the advice of always turn on video to increase engagement. However, after COVID, we've updated our thoughts on this. We still believe like being able to see other people's facial expression will be helpful for connecting with them. But we also recognize that Zoom fatigue and information overload. So we encourage people to turn on the video during the initial check-in, just to connect with each other, or at the end, when people are checking out, just to make sure that we see everyone's faces and see how they react to the meeting. So I'll talk about this a little bit more when it comes to video conferencing. And there are some other norms like brainstorming norms and decision-making norms. You can see that the norms will shape the culture or they shape the conversation. So when it comes to a brainstorming meeting, when the norm is stay within the resource constraints, or all ideas are great ideas. Those will be very different conversation and very different brainstorming meetings. So when you lay out the ground rules really clearly in the beginning, it will be clear for the participants to think about how they want to behave and to support the meeting to achieve the desired outcome. My question to you is, what other norms or practices have you used were beneficial to your meetings? You can share your practice in the chat, and I'm scrolling through and see if people are asking other questions. While you're thinking about the norms and practices you use, I'll share another tip. I don't know if you've heard of Fist of Five. It's just really easy. One, if you're thinking about you find you have a dead silence in the meeting, you're talking about the idea or decision, you're not sure whether we reach a consensus or not, you can ask the team to hold up their fist, and then if they're fully on board, they can put 5. If they're strongly against, they can put 1, and you can get a quick snapshot of where people are at in the group. If you're in the virtual meeting and you didn't have your video on, you can also ask people to type in their response. So once you get a snapshot of how your teams are at, you can explore a little bit more, like why do we have a lot of 1 and 2s? What are their concerns and how we can move forward? What are the things that needs to be hash out? So that's Fist of 5, a quick way to gauge what's happening in the room. Cool. So I have Angela share start and end on time. So that's really basic, but really important. So I love working with Alyssa because she's really punctual and she has all the schedule layout. So we love to start and end on time today as well. So monitor your own air time so that all the participants have a voice. So some people have a token, a toy or something that pass around in the room, or you can use when you're in Zoom, you can use a timer on the screen, so people know that they have a minute to express their thoughts, and they can invite the next person to keep the conversation going. So we don't need to wait for the next person to say something. Cool. Let me move to the final one. So the right technology makes all the difference. So one thing I shared earlier, video or no video, Zoom fatigue is really real, especially when we have been working from home and having virtual meetings for the past year or so. Research has shown that it's kind of easier for people to stay focused when their videos are off. So that's really interesting. It's in the beginning of the pandemic, people love to love for other people to turn on the video and stay connected. But once we have so many meetings where it's just exhausting, and it also like create anxiety. Do I need to clean out my room? Do I need to like put on makeup? Or if I have a bad hair day, don't want to worry about one more thing. So your team can decide whether video or no video will be beneficial for your topic of discussion, and how that will help your team to achieve the desired outcome. And if your team decided to use video at all time, one tip for you is to turn off your self view to avoid exhaustion. So we don't usually look at our own faces during meetings. So don't let that be a distraction for you. So you can always set hide self view in Zoom. That'll be helpful. So if you're interested in the research, I can also share the link to the research in the follow-up email. So I think Angela shared that we want to have all voices in the room, because one voice can change a room. So we need to create opportunities for multiple voices to contribute. I'm an introvert, so it will be really helpful if there are some ground rules where like the system will help me to know like how I can contribute the best in meeting conversations. So here are some tools for your reference. So one tool, like I believe a lot of people use, either is Microsoft Office 365 Word, the online version, or Google Doc. So you can use that for gathering inputs in the online doc, and you can set it anonymous answers. So if you want people to share their thoughts anonymously, so they don't know, they are not attributable or attached to the comments, you can use that. And like quickly, it can help you to quickly capture different thoughts and different thinking to encourage your team to innovate. And you can also use a polling app like we used earlier. So I want to show that app to you. So we use Slido in this process. It's great for voting. And when you have more people, like more than 10 people, it's quick and you can gauge what's happening in the room. You can get a really quick response. And the visualization makes it fun. You can see the immediate feedback from the room, and also create some collective wisdom within those kind of apps. And my question to you is, what tools or activity or software have you found useful in your virtual meetings? You can think about that. If you have like a tool you love, you can share it in the chat as I share the last tool I will recommend. So my new favorite is Butter. I don't know if you heard of Butter. It's a new tool for really, I remember like a lot of you said, how do I increase engagement? So it's a new tool, has really great user experience, and it has like welcoming music in the waiting room. And when you are in the session, you can see on my screen, it's a little bit tiny, but you can see the layout. You can set an agenda and you can use a timer so people know where we're at in this meeting. And you can use the canvas in the middle. It has a great integration with another tool called Miro. So you can use sticky notes and you can collaborative like editing in real time and in the context. And you can see everyone's faces on the side. So everything is in one screen. That's really helpful for us because I know a lot of time we need to switch between different windows and just juggling through all the tabs. That's really challenging to find crucial information and stay focused. So Butter is one tool I would recommend you try it out. It's I think they offer free trial, so feel free to try it out. Awesome. We will definitely share the links and you can try it out and see if you like it. I often use it for online workshop facilitation. Great. So as I know, Alyssa is compiling the Q&A questions, and I'll share the final thoughts on the topic of today. So starting strong is good and finishing strong is epic. We want to end every meeting with a wrap up. So it helps us to get clarity at the end, and it create a sense of closure and accomplishment. And also create a consistency. So we had created record and keep other people's informed. So in the past, we might have like dedicated note taker for certain meetings. But like maybe it's not for every meeting. So wrap up will come to help if you allocate like 5 minutes or 3 to 4 minutes at the end of a meeting and gather the group to do a wrap up. And you can write it on the agenda, make sure it's really happening and we have time for the closure. And you ask the group to identify like what are the to-do, who should do about what by when, what are the decisions we made, and what are some key insights in this meeting, and then write it down. So at that time, you can assign someone or ask someone to capture the notes and share them immediately after the meeting. So they don't need to worry too much about like following up all the details in the meeting. We use the collective wisdom to generate the results. So task, who should do what by when, decision, you can what did we agree on, and you can include a rationale and or why we made this decision, because a lot of times the decision might change and we kind of need to rehash the conversation again. But if you include a rationale, we know the context of why we made this decision. That will help us to track whether we want to update our decision if the environment has changed. And the final one is learning. So what information needs to be highlighted. So once you have these 3 components, you can capture them and share it with whoever needs to be informed, or store it in a shared cloud. So everyone in your organization or in your team can access, so they don't need to be in every meeting. They can just focus on their work and be informed of the meeting outcome of your meetings. Great. So remember what I said in the beginning. So my goal is that if you can get one thing that you want to try in your next meeting, that will be awesome. So you can use Slido to share your thoughts. Like what would be one thing after we talk about setting a desired outcome for your upcoming meetings, or reviewing your upcoming or standing meetings and see which can be replaced, or setting virtual meeting norms with your team. Check out those technology tools we introduced, or do a wrap up at your upcoming meetings. So these are all ideas we talk about today. So if you have one thing that you want to try in your next meeting, share with us. So I saw like using check-in and check-out. I also wrote some articles on how do we conduct a good check-in and check-out. And I saw people say check-out butter. Yeah, it's a great tool and it's fun with sound effects. Setting clear reasons and desired outcome for the meeting. Great. And whenever someone invite you to a meeting, you can also check in with them. So what do we want to achieve at the end? So make sure that we are both spending our time wisely. Doing a wrap up, establishing new norms on meetings for different types of meetings. Wonderful. Setting the purpose, prioritize relationship building. Yes. Great. Trying the wrap up technique. Awesome. So this is a summary of what we talk about. And one final word for you is like leading change one meeting at a time. And the great thing about this is we always have the next meeting, and we always have the opportunity to try and experiment new things. So this is the end of my sharing. So I'm happy to answer some of the questions we gather.
Hi, thank you so much, Tai. So we're now in our Q&A section. So if you have any questions for Tai, please feel free to input them in the Q&A, which that button is located at the bottom of your screen. So Tai, are you ready for some questions?
Mhm.
All right, let's get started. So towards the beginning of your presentation, you listed the 7 reasons to meet, decide, align, ideate, et cetera, et cetera. So how would you categorize meetings that are being held specifically for briefing or sharing out information? Is that under learn? Is that under something else? Or should they not be meetings? I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So our stance is maybe we don't need that as a meeting. So it depends. So what do you think the briefing would like to achieve? Is that for delivering correct information? Or are we gathering feedback from people or immediate response from people? So if that's the case, maybe we're aligning different components or a different perspective on this topic, but it's only briefing and sharing out information. Maybe you can record it like a 3-minute audio or video, quickly share what's happening, and then people can watch it in their own time. So sometimes when I like to report out like this is the result of our survey or something, do I need to hold like a 1-hour meeting to make sure that all the executives are in the room and present it to them? Or I can share like a snippet of this is the highlight, this is the executive summary. Watch this 5-minute video before we have like a 30-minute conversation. So once we arrive at the meeting, we can dive right in. Everyone has their own shared knowledge or knows the context, so we can use the time more effectively.
Thank you. I love the idea of if you need to have a conversation after you share out that information, being able to share out that information beforehand, that way you're using that hour to truly like dive into the details, talk about how, the shortcomings or the opportunities that you have to better do whatever project you have next or et cetera. So thank you so much for that. So the next question we have is, talking about meetings if you're not the meeting planner and you're just the meeting participant, like what tips do you have for managing the flow and the airtime, especially if you're just the participant? And keeping in mind like the power dynamics between like team members and how can we empower people on the call to make sure that everyone's being open to the various perspectives of others and feel safe enough to share those perspectives?
Yeah, that's a really great question, because I think psychological safety is really important for like making all the voices heard in the meeting. So it's not only the meeting process can be adjusted, it's also the environment. So whenever we can always have like more different like new and different meeting practices, but if the leader does not believe in those practices or does not hold up to the norms, it's not really working. We know it's just something on the poster, it's not real. So as a meeting participant, one way you can, I learned this at TC, is use yourself as a instrument. We call it self as instrument in OrgSite. It's like I'm sensing we only hear some voices in the room. I wonder if we can invite different perspective where we make sure that everyone get a chance. Do we want to go round robin and just have everyone's voice heard? Or we can use a different way as to chat with the meeting leader, like, oh, I learned something in the webinar. Let's try this, like start with a check-in. So check-in is really great in the beginning. You can check in on people's status, emotional state, or anything else, or help them put distractions aside. But check-in also allow people to speak up in the very beginning. So if everyone, even it's just one word, what do they what's on their table, what do they have for lunch, even it's just one word. When you are speak up in the meeting, it's more likely you might speak up at another time. You feel more included in this meeting conversation. So try check in as a way. And for meeting participant, if the culture of your team or your organization is not really welcoming those new practices, start with the meetings that maybe smaller circle, or like the meeting leaders, you try to build some relationship with them. And once they see different ways of engaging people and see the benefits, they're more willing to try new things.
Thank you. So you just mentioned distractions, and I know you alluded this to this earlier when you were doing your presentations, but virtual meetings are great, but it's also so easy to get distracted or get pulled into like G-chats or Slack messages and things like that. So how do we rein in, if we're like the meeting leader, how do we rein in meeting participants who might just be constantly having side conversations, either in like Zoom chat or Slack or things like that, and they're obviously not truly paying attention in the meeting when they should be, because like they're about to like, we need their feedback on something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really great observation. Why are they having those type of conversations? Do they really need to be in this meeting, or do they only need to be part of this meeting? Maybe they only need to participate the first 20 minutes and the rest is not relevant to their work. Maybe it's the meeting design, we can change it. So it's maybe hard to imagine that, oh, people come and go in a meeting, but once we have like clear agenda, you can be excused after this item and we can inform you what we decided at the end. That will be something we can do. And for disrupted behaviors, sometimes talking about what are the needs behind that. Are they feeling bored? Do they know what they are expected to behave in the meeting? Or do they know how they can contribute better in this meeting? Or they're not really the key person to contribute to the desired outcome of this meeting. So it's okay for them to be distracted and have side conversation. So if you're the meeting leader, when you notice something, reading norms would be something that you can try. You can try it as an experiment, frame it as an experiment. So if we want to have like a great meeting, do a reflection. What are some behaviors we want to see in our meetings next month? Let's try something together. So that will help people to reflect on what are the behaviors they want to start doing or stop doing or continue doing. So that will be a good way for the team to reflect on how can we become more effective team.
Perfect. I know we're getting close at time, but I actually love this question. I think it's something that's kind of top of mind, especially for the people who answered that they have 30 plus meetings in the past 2 weeks. So we'll try to do a quick answer just to be mindful of time. But the question is, how do we help teams take stock of the types of meetings that they have? Like, what does that process look like? What are the key steps you recommend to help kind of alleviate the number of meetings, just to make sure that we're having effective and productive meetings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one way is that we help organizations to do an assessment. So to think about like how many meetings we have and are they productive, and can they articulate the desired outcome of that meeting? Yes or no? And then whether they achieve it or not. So that will help you to do a quick check and see like if everyone do a health examination so on your meetings, so they can pull up their calendar and compile check whether they're really helpful to move things forward. And like we practiced earlier, what are the alternatives for those meetings? And it's really hard to combat meeting FOMO, because a lot of times we want to be in those meetings to feel like we're included or feel important, but that also help us to see if you take stock of all kinds of meetings or the aggregated time you spend in meeting, you can also calculate the cost. like per person. Like if I spend 1 hour in this meeting, 1 hour for preparation, and we have 10 people in this meeting, how much does that cost the organization? Is it really worth it? Or do we have other ways to achieve this? So that's something that we can try to use it, put a dollar sign on it. And sometimes it's easier for the leaders or with the team to reflect, oh, we're spending so much money on like gathering people around, and how do we make sure that it's really worthwhile?
Thank you so much. I know we're a little over time, so I really appreciate you, Tai, for staying on the call for a little bit longer, and all of our audience member. I also just want to say, Tai, thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise and staying up so late, because I know you're in Taiwan right now, on how we can create more productive and effective meetings with all your tips and tricks and strategies. And audience members, thank you so much for joining us today for our last career development webinars for this year in 2021. I just want to let everyone know that you will be receiving a recording of this webinar, as well as Tai's information in a post-event email. So keep an eye on that. That will also include a link to our full career development webinar archive as well. Don't forget to follow us on social media and keep an eye on your emails for details on future events. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Thanks, everyone.
Happy holidays,
Bye. Happy
everyone.
holidays.